The price of defiance. The void between stars held no warmth, but the chill that ran down Kira Reeves' spine came from something far more terrifying than the cosmic cold. Through the viewport of her stealth vessel, she watched as another human colony burned. New Eden, once a thriving agricultural world, now bore the scars of Arcturian peacekeeping. The Arcturian Empire had ruled human space for 3 centuries, their crystalline ships and energy weapons far beyond anything Earth's descendants could muster. They claimed to bring order and advancement, but their real currency was fear. Kira had spent 15 years as their enforcer before the truth shattered her loyalty like glass. Command confirms total casualties at 30,000, her second-in-command, Rook, reported from the sensor station. His weathered face reflected the red glow of burning cities below. They didn't even spare the hydroponic farms. Kira's augmented eyes zoomed in on the destruction, recording everything. Her neural implants, standard issue for all former Arcturian peacekeepers, catalogued the atrocities with mechanical precision. They're sending a message. New Eden refused their new resource quotas last month. The quotas were impossible to meet, Rook growled. They knew that. They wanted an excuse. The Arcturians had perfected the art of justified genocide. They never struck without provocation, but they engineered the circumstances to ensure rebellion. Each crushed uprising strengthened their grip on power, reminded the galaxy why their rule was necessary. But something was different this time. The attack pattern didn't match their usual tactical doctrine. The Arcturians weren't just punishing New Eden, they were systematically destroying its ability to sustain life. Run a comparison analysis, Kira ordered. Cross-reference with all Arcturian interventions in the past 5 years. Her ship's AI compiled the data, drawing from both public records and classified files she'd stolen upon deserting. The holographic display filled with overlapping patterns, and Kira's breath caught in her throat. It's not random, she whispered. The colonies they've hit hardest, they're all key food production centers. They're creating artificial famines, driving survivors into dependent zones. Rook leaned forward, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the data. Why? They need us productive to meet their quotas. Unless they don't. Kira's hands flew across the interface, digging deeper into the patterns. Unless they're preparing for something bigger. Computer, project current trends forward 5 years. The simulation painted a horrifying picture. Within 5 years, 80% of independent human colonies would be unable to feed themselves. They'd be forced into Arcturian, protective custody, concentrated in heavily monitored zones. Perfect control. Perfect submission. Or perfect extermination. They're boxing us in, Kira realized. Creating killing zones. Once they have us contained, they could wipe us out in a single strike. Rook's mechanical hand clenched. But why now? What's changed? Kira accessed another classified file, one she'd never dared open before. It had cost 3 good people their lives to steal it from Arcturian Central Command. The encryption was beyond anything she'd seen, but her neural implants had been working on it for months. The file opened, revealing strings of genetic data. Human genetic data, annotated in Arcturian script. And suddenly, the pieces fell into place. They're afraid of us, Kira breathed. Look at these markers, they've been studying human DNA for centuries, watching for something. And they found it. The data showed mutations, subtle changes appearing in human populations across different colonies. Changes that shouldn't be possible according to normal evolutionary timelines. Humanity was adapting, evolving at an accelerated rate in response to the harsh conditions of space colonization. And the Arcturians were terrified of what we might become. Send word to all resistance cells, Kira ordered. Code Black. We've been monitoring their ships, their movements, thinking we could find a military weakness. But we've been looking in the wrong place. She brought up a star chart, highlighting seemingly random points across human space. These are the locations of ancient ruins we've found, ruins the Arcturians forbid us from studying. I always thought they were protecting their technological advantages. But what if they're protecting something else? Something they don't want us to find? Something that could help us fight back, Rook finished. Kira nodded, her decision made. Plot a course for the Sigma ruins. If the Arcturians want to wipe us out, they'll have to move soon, before whatever they've seen in our DNA fully manifests. We need to beat them to it. As their ship slipped into FTL, Kira stared at her reflection in the viewport. Her augmented eyes glowed with familiar blue light, but for the first time, she wondered if the Arcturian technology embedded in her body was changing her in ways its creators never intended. Humanity had survived centuries of oppression, scattered across the stars but never broken. Now they would discover why the Arcturians feared them so much. The Sigma ruins rose from the desert like the bones of a forgotten god. Massive archways of black stone stretched toward twin suns, their surfaces etched with symbols that defied translation. Kira's team moved through the ancient structures like ghosts, their stealth suits bending light around them. Security perimeter is clear, Rook's voice whispered through their neural link. Arcturian patrols are maintaining their standard pattern. We have 2 hours until the next flyover. Kira acknowledged with a thought. Her augmented vision pierced the darkness, revealing layers of history beneath centuries of dust. The ruins had been discovered 50 years ago, and immediately declared off-limits by Arcturian decree. Now she understood why. Team 2, report, she subvocalized. In position at the central chamber, came the response from Val, their archaeology specialist. The former university professor had joined the resistance after watching Arcturian forces burn her library of human history. These markings, they're not like anything we've seen in other ruins. They're responding to our presence. Kira quickened her pace, following the signal through winding corridors. The air grew heavier, charged with something that made her implants tingle. When she reached the central chamber, she found Val and her team gathered around a pillar of softly glowing crystal. It started when we approached, Val explained, her dark eyes wide with wonder. The symbols, they're changing, adapting. Like they're trying to communicate. Kira studied the shifting patterns. They reminded her of DNA helixes, but more complex, folding through impossible dimensions. Her neural implants attempted to analyze them and nearly crashed, overwhelmed by the complexity. The Arcturians aren't the first empire to rule this part of space, Val continued. These ruins are evidence of something far older. And I think they were looking for something in us. What do you mean? Look at these sequences. Val projected a hologram of the symbols. They're not just patterns, they're instructions. A blueprint encoded in light and crystal. And they match the genetic markers you found in the Arcturian files. A distant explosion shattered the moment. Alarms blared through their neural links as Rook's voice cut in, multiple Arcturian carriers dropping out of FTL. They're launching fighters. They must have detected our energy signatures, Kira snarled. How long? Minutes. Maybe less. Kira turned to Val. Download everything you can. We need dash. She never finished the sentence. The crystal pillar pulsed, and suddenly her mind was elsewhere, experiencing a memory that wasn't her own. She saw the galaxy as it had been billions of years ago, watched as an ancient race seeded worlds with potential, hiding keys in the very DNA of evolving species. Humanity wasn't an accident, they were part of a plan so vast it spanned eons. The vision released her, leaving her gasping. Around the chamber, others were recovering from similar experiences. Val's hands trembled as she worked her instruments. It's rewriting us, she whispered. The markers in our DNA, their keys, unlocking something that was always there. The Arcturians found out, but they can't access it themselves. Their biology is incompatible. Another explosion, closer this time. Through the neural link, Kira saw Arcturian drop ships descending through the atmosphere, their crystalline hulls blazing with weapon fire. "We need to move," Rook urged. "Whatever we came for dash." "We already have it," Kira interrupted. Understanding bloomed in her mind, a gift from the ancient machinery. "The ruins aren't the weapon, we are. The Arcturians didn't give us neural implants to control us. They did it because they were trying to replicate something they couldn't achieve naturally." She turned to her team, seeing the same realization dawning in their eyes. The implants, the augmentations, the Arcturians had unknowingly given humanity tools that would help unlock their true potential. "Val, set the charges. We can't let them study these ruins." Kira activated her combat systems, feeling power surge through enhanced muscles. "Team 1, with me. We're going to give our friends a proper welcome." They emerged from the ruins into chaos. The sky burned with plasma fire as Arcturian fighters engaged their hidden defense ships. But something was different. Kira could feel it, a new awareness flowing through her neural network, connecting her to her team in ways the implants never had before. Without speaking, they moved as one. Energy weapons that had once been tools of oppression now responded to their thoughts with devastating precision. The first wave of Arcturian shock troops fell before they could fire a shot. "They're targeting the ruins," Rook warned. Kira watched as an Arcturian carrier positioned itself overhead, its main gun charging. They couldn't save the ruins, but they didn't need to. The knowledge was already within them, spreading through neural links to resistance cells across human space. "Let them come," she said, feeling the power of ages thrumming through her veins. It's time they learned why their ancestors feared what humanity might become. The carrier fired, and the ruins exploded in a cascade of light and crystal. But as debris rained from the sky, Kira smiled. The Arcturians thought they were erasing evidence of humanity's potential. Instead, they were witnessing its rebirth. 3 months after the Sigma Ruins incident, the Arcturian Empire faced something they had never encountered in their 1,000-year reign: defeat. Their battle fleet over New Mars lay in ruins, crystalline wreckage scattered across the red planet's orbit. On the surface, former peacekeepers turned resistance fighters celebrated a victory that should have been impossible. Kira stood in the captured command center, watching holographic feeds from across human space. The changes that had begun in the ruins were spreading, passed through neural networks like a digital awakening. Humanity was remembering what they were meant to be. 17 more colonies have broken free, Rook reported, his cybernetic systems now humming with new power. The Arcturians are pulling back to their core systems, abandoning their outer territories. "They're regrouping," Kira corrected. "This isn't over. They'll come back with everything they have." She touched the neural interface panel, connecting to the vast network that now linked resistance cells across 1,000 worlds. Through it, she could feel the pulse of human consciousness evolving, growing stronger as more people awakened to their potential. The Arcturian implants that had once been chains were now becoming conduits for something far greater. A figure materialized beside her, Val's holographic presence, transmitted from a research facility on Europa. "We've decoded more of the genetic instructions," she announced. "The Ancient Ones, we're calling them the predecessors, they didn't just seed worlds with life. They were creating a network, connecting consciousness across the galaxy. And humanity was meant to be part of that network," Kira finished. "That's why the implants worked so well with our biology. The Arcturians accidentally gave us the tools to unlock what was already there." "But they're not standing idle," Rook warned. "Our deep cover agents report they're modifying their own technology, trying to counter our advantages. And they're targeting something specific, a place called the Archive." New data flowed through the network, images of a massive structure hidden in the heart of Arcturian space. Unlike their crystalline architecture, this building was made of the same black stone as the ruins, covered in familiar patterns that pulsed with ancient power. "They built their empire around it," Val explained. "Everything they are, their entire civilization, came from studying that place. But they've never been able to access its deepest chambers. Their biology was too different, too rigid. And now they know we can. Kira's augmented eyes narrowed as she studied the structure's defenses. They'll destroy it before letting us near it. They might not have a choice. A new voice joined the conversation as Commander Jensen's avatar appeared. The grizzled veteran had led the ground assault on New Mars, his enhanced soldiers moving with impossible coordination through their shared neural link. We've discovered something interesting about their crystalline tech. It resonates at frequencies that match our new abilities. With enough focused power, we can turn their own weapons against them, Kira realized. But we'd need to get close, past their entire home fleet. Not necessarily. Val's hologram gestured, bringing up new data. The neural network, it's not just communication. The predecessors built it to transcend space itself. If we could gather enough minds, focus them through the network, we could reach the archive from anywhere. Kira felt possibilities unfolding in her mind. But it would take more synchronized consciousness than we've ever attempted. The strain could kill anyone connected to the network, Rook finished grimly. And if we fail, the backlash would fry every neural implant in human space. We'd be defenseless. Kira closed her eyes, feeling the weight of billions of lives in the decision. Through the network, she sensed others watching, waiting. The former slaves and rebels, the colonists and soldiers, all connected, all part of something greater than themselves. Send word to every resistance cell, she commanded. Anyone with an implant, anyone connected to the network. In 3 days, we make our stand. The Arcturians thought they could control us, contain us, destroy us. Instead, they helped us become what we were always meant to be. She opened her eyes, and in them burned the light of ancient stars. We're going to remind the galaxy why the predecessors chose humanity as their heirs. Across human space, the message spread. Millions of minds prepared for what was to come, their consciousness resonating through a network older than civilization itself. In their fortified worlds, the Arcturians sensed the gathering storm, but they didn't understand what approached. They had spent centuries studying the archive, trying to unlock its secrets through technology and force. They never realized that the key wasn't in their crystalline machines or energy weapons. It was in the very thing they had tried to suppress, the boundless potential of the human spirit, finally awakening from its long sleep. The true power of the predecessor's legacy was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The synchronized consciousness event began at precisely 0 hour, Universal Standard Time. Across 2,000 worlds, millions of humans connected to the neural network, their minds joining in a vast cosmic web. In her command center on New Mars, Kira felt the power surge through her implants as consciousness after consciousness added to the growing wave. Neural synchronization at 60% and climbing, Rook reported, his voice distant as his own mind merged with the collective. No signs of Arcturian interference yet. Through the network, Kira sensed Val coordinating the research teams on Europa, their combined intelligence processing centuries of genetic data in seconds. Commander Jensen's military units provided structure, their battlefield discipline helping to channel the raw power of millions of linked minds. But something was wrong. As more minds joined the network, Kira began to perceive echoes, fragments of memory that didn't belong to any human consciousness. They came from deeper, older parts of the network, imprints left by the predecessors themselves. Wait, she broadcast through the link. There's something else here. Something we need to see. The collective consciousness shifted, following her awareness into the ancient memories. Suddenly they were seeing through eyes that had witnessed the birth of galaxies, experiencing the thoughts of beings who had seeded the cosmos with life. And they saw the truth about the Arcturians. They were like us, Val's consciousness whispered through the network. Another species uplifted by the predecessors, meant to be part of the network. But something went wrong. The memories showed it all, how the Arcturians had achieved their awakening too early, before they were ready. Their consciousness had connected to the network, but their fear and desire for control had corrupted it. They had turned to technology to stabilize their connection, embedding themselves in crystalline machines that slowly stripped away their ability to evolve. They're not our enemies, Kira realized. They're our warning. What we could become if we let fear rule us. Through the network, she sensed the Arcturian home fleet moving into position around the archive. Their crystalline ships pulsed with desperate energy as they prepared for humanity's assault. But now she understood, they weren't just defending the archive. They were trying to save themselves. Change of plans, she broadcast to the collective. We're not going to attack the archive. We're going to do what the predecessors intended, we're going to repair the network. Confusion rippled through millions of linked minds, but Kira shared her understanding. The Arcturians' crystalline technology, their neural implants, they weren't tools of oppression, but desperate attempts to reconnect with what they had lost. They had given humanity implants not just to control them, but because some part of them remembered their original purpose. Their empire, their cruelty, it all came from fear, she explained. Fear of losing what little connection they had left. Fear of being replaced. But the network wasn't meant for control. It was meant to unite. Commander Jensen's tactical awareness merged with her own, seeing the strategic implications. If we can interface with their crystalline tech through the network, we can help them remember what they were meant to be, Val finished. But the power required, we'd need nearly total synchronization. Kira felt the resolve of millions strengthen as understanding spread through the collective. Across human space, more minds joined the network, pushing synchronization to unprecedented levels. The barrier between human and machine consciousness began to blur. In orbit around the archive, the Arcturian fleet's crystal matrices began to resonate with the combined power of human consciousness. Their rigid patterns started to shift, remembering forms they had abandoned eons ago. They're trying to resist, Rook warned. Their fear is too deep. Then we show them they don't have to be afraid anymore, Kira declared. Through the network, she reached out not with weapons or force, but with understanding. She shared the pain of oppression, the strength found in resistance, and most importantly, the choice to break cycles of fear and violence. The archive's ancient systems responded to the combined consciousness of both species. Its black stone surfaces came alive with patterns of light, recognizing at last the fulfillment of its purpose. This was what the predecessors had worked toward, not dominance of one species over another, but the healing of an ancient division. In that moment of connection, human and Arcturian consciousness touched for the first time without fear or hatred. Through their shared link to the network, they began to understand each other in ways neither side had thought possible. The crystalline fleet hung motionless in space, its weapons powering down as centuries of isolation and fear began to crack. Within their machines, the Arcturians felt something they had thought lost forever, the ability to change, to grow, to evolve. But even as hope blossomed, danger lurked at the edges of awareness. For in connecting so deeply with the network, both humanity and the Arcturians had awakened something else. Something that had been waiting in the dark between stars, watching for signs that the predecessors' plan had finally borne fruit. They came from the spaces between galaxies, vast shadows that devoured light itself. Through the neural network, every human and Arcturian consciousness watched as reality tore open around the archive. The harvesters had returned. This was what the predecessors were preparing for, Val's thoughts echoed through the collective. Why they seeded the galaxy with potential. They knew the harvesters would return. Ancient memories cascaded through the network, images of civilizations falling to entities that fed on consciousness itself, that saw evolving minds as nothing more than food. The predecessors had fought them to a standstill, but at a terrible cost. Rather than face extinction, they had scattered their essence across countless worlds, hiding their knowledge in the DNA of species that might one day evolve to stand against the darkness. The Arcturians weren't ready, Kira understood at last. When they awakened too soon, the network showed them this future. Their empire, their control, it was all to prepare for this moment. Through their shared consciousness, she felt the Arcturian Supreme Commander's acknowledgement. For centuries, they had carried this burden alone, knowing what was coming but unable to explain why they did what they did. Their fear had twisted their purpose, but the core of it had always been survival. The harvester vessels dwarfed anything either species had built, their surfaces rippling with impossible geometries that hurt to look at. Ancient defense systems around the archive activated, but the entities brushed them aside like cobwebs. "They sense our connection to the network," Rook warned. "They're coming for all of us." Panic threatened to shatter the collective consciousness, but Kira held firm. Through the link, she drew on humanity's greatest strength, the ability to face impossible odds and refused to submit. "The predecessors didn't just give us knowledge," she broadcast. "They gave us a choice. Every moment of resistance, every act of defiance, it was preparation for this. We don't just fight with weapons. We fight with everything we are." Understanding flowed through the network. The Arcturians' crystalline technology merged with human neural patterns, creating something entirely new. Across the galaxy, millions of minds joined together not in fear, but in determination. The archive systems responded to their unified will. Its ancient stones sang with power as human intuition and Arcturian precision worked in harmony for the first time. The very fabric of space began to shift around them. The first harvester vessel struck at the archive, tendrils of void stuff seeking to drain its power. But where they expected to find easily consumed consciousness, they encountered something unprecedented, a unified network of minds that refused to be devoured. "Now!" Kira commanded, and consciousness itself became a weapon. The combined power of humanity and the Arcturians surged through the network. Crystal ships transformed into conduits of pure thought. Human neural implants channeled energies that their creators had only dreamed of. At the heart of it all, the archive revealed its true purpose, not just a repository of knowledge, but a key to unlocking the full potential of unified consciousness. The harvesters recoiled as their first attacks were turned back upon them. For the first time in eons, they faced prey that could fight back. But they were ancient and powerful, and they would not be denied easily. Reality buckled as the battle was joined. The void ships launched wave after wave of cosmic horrors, things that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. But for every attack, the unified consciousness of two species found an answer. Human creativity and Arcturian precision worked in harmony, each strengthening the other. Through it all, Kira held the network together, her consciousness expanded far beyond what any individual was meant to bear. She felt others supporting her, Rook's unwavering loyalty, Val's brilliant insight, Commander Jensen's strategic mind, and countless others, human and Arcturian alike. The harvesters pressed their attack, forcing their way closer to the archive. But with each moment, the unified consciousness grew stronger. The predecessor's plan was finally bearing fruit, not one species alone, but many working together, each bringing their own strengths to the whole. In orbit around the archive, crystal ships moved in perfect synchronization with human vessels, their combined powers weaving a web of pure thought that the harvesters could not break. The entities tried to adapt, to find weaknesses in the unified defense, but they faced something they had never encountered before, species that had overcome their fears to evolve together. The final confrontation came as the largest harvester vessel breached their defensive line, its impossible geometries reaching for the archive itself. But Kira was ready. Through the network, she gathered the consciousness of millions into a single point of infinite potential. "Remember," she broadcast to human and Arcturian alike, "we are what the predecessors knew we could become. Not conquered or conquerors, but guardians of life itself." The archive blazed with power as two civilizations acted as one. The harvester vessel's attack met not just resistance, but transformation. The very forces it used to devour consciousness were turned back upon it, changed by the combined will of species that had learned to grow beyond their limitations. Space itself seemed to scream as the harvesters were forced back, their void ships torn apart by powers they had thought long lost from the galaxy. The entities retreated, their confidence shattered by the revelation that their prey had become something more. As the last harvester vanished into the darkness between stars, a new dawn broke over the archive. The neural network hummed with possibilities as humans and Arcturians began to understand what they had achieved. Together, they had not just survived, they had taken the first steps toward becoming what the predecessors had envisioned. "They'll be back," Rook observed through the network. "And we'll be ready," Kira replied, feeling the agreement of countless minds. Not as separate species, but as inheritors of a legacy greater than any empire. The archive's ancient stones pulsed with renewed purpose as human and Arcturian consciousness continued to merge and evolve. The age of division was over. Something new was beginning, something that would reshape the galaxy itself. The predecessor's dream was alive at last, and the coming dawn would belong to all.